Meanwhile, speculation over who could replace May in Downing Street is now in full flow, following her announcement this morning. I'll be talking to political expert Professor John Ryan. An attack on journalism. Reaction pours in from media freedom groups as US authorities file 17 new charges against Julian Assange, each carrying up to 10 years in jail. And the Home Office is criticised over its treatment of students who were wrongfully accused of cheating in English language tests. We hear from two of the victims. And the Birmingham Primary School at the centre of protests over LGBT teaching is forced to close early for half-term over safety fears. We'll be hearing from one of the demonstrators. Good evening. An emotional Theresa May has announced she will resign as Prime Minister on June the 7th. It comes after she was forced to pull her latest Brexit withdrawal bill from the House of Commons following uproar from all sides of the chamber.
I am today announcing that I will resign as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party on Friday the 7th of June, so that a successor can be chosen. I do so with no ill will, but with enormous and enduring gratitude to have had the opportunity to serve the country I love.
Well, May also announced the process of selecting a new leader will begin the week after she resigns. Well, for more on a key day in politics, I'm joined by RT UK's Issa Ali. Hi there, Issa. So it was always going to happen sooner rather than later, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't so much of a surprise following the events of this week. At the beginning of the week, the Prime Minister looked in a more confident position, bringing forward her speech to outline her new approach to Brexit. But by the time we got to around Wednesday, it became ever more clear that the Prime Minister would be on her way out, with numerous cabinet colleagues really rising up against her, in particular over the question of her promising or offering a second referendum vote to MPs, and also getting closer to the Labour position on a customs union. And it was high-profile resignations that we saw bringing it to a head, and there has been a widespread reaction from all across the political spectrum to that announcement by the Prime Minister today.
It is difficult not to feel for Mrs May, but politically she misjudged the mood of the country and her party. Two Tory leaders have now gone whose instincts were pro-EU. Either the party learns that lesson or it dies.
A very dignified statement from Theresa May. Thank you for your stoical service to our country and the Conservative Party. It is now time to follow her urgings, to come together and deliver Brexit.
I think the Prime Minister deserves our respect and our gratitude. She's a dedicated public servant, and she's done everything throughout her career to put this country first. And I want to thank her for her service and honour her for everything that she's done for our country.
A new Conservative leader isn't going to solve the problem. There has to be another opportunity for the people of this country to decide who they want to be in their government. I think we need a general election.
I think this is a day to remember Theresa May, her duty, her sense of public service, the fact that she has done an incredibly difficult job with enormous integrity.
Well, I don't think it's any secret that we had our differences, particularly over Brexit, but I have never doubted Theresa May's sincerity or indeed her sense of duty to do what she felt was right for the nation. She was quite selfless in all of that, and I think it's right to acknowledge that today.
So much reaction there, but interesting, of course, to see the different sides of the spectrum. Of course, Tory MPs coming out with a lot of words of respect, but ironically, it was probably they who had the biggest say in getting rid of her. But what happens next? Now, on Friday, the 7th of June, that will see the Prime Minister formally resign as Conservative leader. That will then fire the starting gun for the leadership race, and there will be nominations of candidates to see who will replace her. Then the leadership contenders, they'll be whittled down to just two Tory candidates by MPs, and then ballots will be cast, and we should be getting results around the middle of July. And in terms of those who have announced that they're running, there is a wide spectrum of potential candidates, but we can see who has already thrown their names into the hats. We've seen Boris Johnson, he's a front runner, Rory Stewart, Jeremy Hunt, and also Esther McVey. Those are the names who have definitely declared. But what about those who haven't officially declared? You have Andrea Leadsom, the former leader of the Commons whose resignation sparked this process, the Home Secretary, Sajid Javid. You've got Dominic Raab, as well as Liz Truss. You have Michael Gove, also touted as being a potential candidate, and Matt Hancock. All of them tipped to make a run at the leadership. And according to some, all of this could see at some point, well, before 2022 at least, a general election being held as well, to really try to see if there is a mandate or a way to change the parliamentary arithmetic to get this deal through.
Indeed, so we can break that impasse. Issa, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And for more on this, I'm joined by political expert Professor John Ryan. Professor Ryan, thank you very much indeed for coming in this Friday. Well, you've got to admire the PM, haven't you? I mean, she really cares about the country. I mean, she was crying and everything.
Well, she was crying at the end there, but she's a Prime Minister with no achievements to her name. And it's been one mishap after another since she came into office. And if it was at all possible that there could be a worse Prime Minister than David Cameron, then it's Theresa May.
Well, could anyone have done any better?
Probably they could have, yes.
In what way?
First of all, I think she started off badly by putting so many red lines down in the negotiations, almost made it so much more difficult to get a deal. She never really reached out in Parliament to opposition politicians who were Brexiteers. She called an election to try and get a bigger majority. When she had a majority, it was a slim one, but nevertheless. So politically, she was inept. And she showed herself to be completely inept in the campaign with a 20-point lead in the opinion polls, and was, fought to a standstill, and then had to rely on the DUP. And she never really thought of the national interest. She thought of her own position and the Conservative Party. And I could go on and on.
I was going to say that, but isn't she right to seek her own mandate on this issue?
She was possibly right to do that, but was the timing right? But she was elected as a Remainer to deliver Brexit, and she never did.
Well, let's have a look then at the contenders. Boris, as we saw on that little graphic there, the front runner. But will the Parliamentary Party let him get down to the last two, do you think?
They might do, because we'll see probably, threats from other parties emerging in the UK scenario, and I think he's going to be the antidote for that, for some of the MPs who can't really stomach him, but are worried about their seats. And I think Nigel Farage is really playing a big role in people's thinking. But as the worst Foreign Secretary in living memory, people have to question whether he's going to be a good Prime Minister.
And isn't it always the case, or often the case, that the front runner rarely gets the top job, don't they? So let's have a look at some of the sort of pick of the rest. Who do you think are more likely?
Well, I think Dominic Raab, if you're looking at it from a Conservative perspective, you're going to get a hard Brexiteer, a clear right-winger, someone that could combat maybe Farage. It could be a strong possibility. Some of the others might come up on the rails, but as you rightly say, Boris was, a favourite the last time, and he fell at the second or third hurdle. So it's difficult, but he's looking quite good at the moment. But Dominic Raab would be somebody that you'd have to look at as a possible as well.
There's also looking at the whole mechanics of the thing. We won't get a new PM until July, will we? And we
No.
need to have a deal done by October, otherwise we're going to crash out without a deal.
Well, I don't think he's, if it's Raab or if it's Boris Johnson, it's going to be unicorn time again. They want to try and renegotiate a deal on the basis of what they talked about before, which is not going to happen. So they're going to drive towards a no-deal Brexit. And that's now become a reality, that no-deal Brexit, if Raab or Boris Johnson are elected as Conservative Party leaders and then become Prime Minister.
But that won't please the EU, so what are we going to see from the European side here?
From the European side, they'll say no. And then it will come back to the Parliament to try and stop no-deal Brexit, or there could be an election, or there could be a referendum. And if we didn't have either of those two, we get to the point where we might have to think about revoking, or the Parliament would have to think about revoking Article 50. So this is extremely messy. It's more messy, and everyone knew when May went, things wouldn't look that good either with the new Prime Minister from the Conservative Party.
It's going to be an interesting few weeks, is the best way to put it, isn't it? Professor John Ryan, thank you very much. Thank you.